The papal bull Unam Sanctam, issued in 1302, claimed ownership over all land and souls, and was the first ever trust set up. This trust, along with other papal bulls, is connected to our birth certificate trusts. In 1666, they created the Sestake Trust, which stated that if a person was missing after 7 years, they would be deemed forever beyond the seas. Therefore, their estate and all the belongings belonged to the state. At birth, a baby is registered with a birth certificate, thus creating a legal corporate entity, a fiction. Thus, the baby is presumed as dead or missing beyond the sea, as birth means stillbirth under legislation. The trickery of legalese and words. If by the age of 7 they haven't returned from the sea, as 1666 claims, then their estate is turned over. Earlier last year, I decided to rebut the Vatican's claim of the Unam Sanctum owning our souls, and I won my claim. I received a stamped copy of the Unam Sanctum from the Vatican themselves. I've thumbprinted it with red ink in the right corner, and I've made my status that I am alive and a living being. The presumption that I was dead on my birth certificate is now rebutted, and I am a living sovereign wahine toa. Kia ora whanau. Today we're going to be talking about the Unam Sanctum and the other papal bulls created that make up your Sestake Birth Certificate Trust. The Unam Sanctum, issued in 1302 by Pope Boniface, was the first trust of the world. It was actually the first express trust, where he claimed control over the whole planet and claimed he was the king of the world. In the papal bull, it actually states in the last line, "Furthermore, we declare, we proclaim, we define that it is absolutely necessary for salvation that every human creature be subject to Roman Pontiff." In celebration, he commissioned a gold-plated headdress in the shape of a pine cone with an elaborate crown at the base. The pine cone is an ancient symbol of fertility and one traditionally associated with the demon Baal. It also represents the pineal gland in the centre of our brains, crystalline in nature, which allows us to access Source. Hence the 13-foot tall pine cone in the Vatican Square today. This created the first crown of the Crown Land. Pope Boniface was the first leader in history to create the concept of a trust, but the first testimony trust through a deed and will created a deceased estate was actually created by Pope Nicholas in 1455 through the papal bull Romanus Pontifex. This is only one of the 3 papal bulls to include the line with the incipit for a perpetual remembrance. This papal bull had the effect of conveying the right of use of land as real property from the express trust Unam Sanctum to the control of the pontiff and his successors in perpetuity. The second crown of the Commonwealth was created in 1481 with the papal bull Aeterni Regis, meaning eternal crowned. This papal bull created the Crown of Aragon, later known as the Crown of Spain, and is the highest sovereign and highest steward of all Roman slaves subject to the rule of pontiff. Spain lost the crown in 1604 when it was granted to King James of England. In 1605, after the false flag operation of the Gunpowder Plot, the crown was finally lost by England in 1975 when it was returned to Spain and King Carlos, where it remains to this day. The second crown is actually represented by the second Sestake Trust, created when a child is born. With the sale of the birth certificate as a bond to the private central bank of the nation, depriving us of ownership of our flesh and condemning us to perpetual servitude as a Roman person or slave. By issuing the form of a registry number and registering the name, it therefore creates the corporate person and denies the child of any rights to real property. A contract with the baby is then created, and what we notice today is the Guthrie card, or the heel prick that happens when your child is born in the hospital. By tricking the parents into signing the baby away through this deceitful legal meanings, a live birth record, which is a promissory note, is converted as a slave bond. This is created and sold to the private reserve bank of whatever nation you're from, thus conveyed into a second and separate certificate trust per child owned by the bank. When this promissory note reaches maturity and the bank is unable to seize the slave child, a maritime lien is lawfully issued to salvage the lost property and is monetized as currency, issued in series against the certificate trust, the third trust. Since 1815, this third crown of the Roman cult and the third certificate trust represents the ecclesial property, and it's been managed by the bar as the reconstituted gala, the grim reapers for reaping their souls. Each certificate trust created joins this 1933 final crown. Thus, they represent the three claims of property of the Roman cult: real property on earth, personal property your body, and ecclesial property the soul. Each corresponds exactly to the three forms of law available to the gala of the bar courts today: the corporate commercial law, the judge is your landlord; the maritime and canon law, where the judge is the banker; and the Talmudic law, where the judge is the priest. The third crown, issued in 1537 by Paul III, was the final testimony deed and a will of the testimony trusts, set up to be claiming all the lost souls lost to the sea. Thus, it creates a legal title over one's own soul. So we are denied legal standing and will be treated as things and cargo without souls, upon which the bar is now legally able to enforce maritime law. The certificate trust is actually a fictional concept. It is a temporary testimony trust, first created during the reign of Henry VIII of England through the Certificate V Act of 1540, and then updated by Charles II through the Certificate Act of 1666, where an estate may be effected for the benefit of a person presumed lost or abandoned at sea, and therefore assumed dead after 7 years. Therefore, any claims, history, statutes, or arguments that deviate in terms of the origin and function of such trusts, as pronounced by these canons, is false and automatically null and void. The person lost beyond the seas loses all estate and loses all property, loses its soul. When a beneficiary loses all the benefit of their property or higher estate and soul to the certificate trust, they do not own the trust, they are just a beneficiary of what the trustee of the certificate trust chooses to provide. All of these trusts are created on presumption, based upon original purpose and function. Such a trust cannot be created if these presumptions can be proven not to exist. Since 1933, when a child is born in a state under inferior Roman law, 3 certificate trusts are created upon certain presumptions specifically designed to deny forever the child any rights of real property, any rights to be free, any rights to be known as a man or woman, rather than just a creature or animal. By claiming and possessing their soul to a spirit, the executors or administrators take hold of that trust, said trust, i.e. the judges and the court and the government, take hold of your trust, and you are forever deemed as a person. Because of this presumption in law, it is necessary for all of us to do an affidavit of life and state that we are living. We are not lost beyond the seas, like the Certificate 1666 Act states we are. We must inform all nationals and internationals, governments and corporations that we are alive and living, and claim our sovereignty back. This is necessary for everyone to do. If you would like help with an affidavit of life and to start this process, then email me. My email is on my other videos. Thank you for your time. Kia ora.